I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. Bit later than usual, but here we are, same place, different theme. Great watches tonight. All right, so for those of you who are new to the program, I'm going to show you some watches, do sort of a live daisy-chained version of my old on-the-wrist reviews, talking about each watch in turn. Tonight's theme, if you will, is calendar watches, complete calendars, annual calendars, perpetual calendars, and then we've got a couple of chronographs that mix calendars in. We've got 17 watches tonight, and they span the price range from $100,000 down to less than $2,500 US. I'm also giving away free stuff, so regardless of whether you buy, I've got the hookup for the holidays with hats, ties, even a Panerai Italian leather wallet tonight. I can see our friends joining us, Eddie Landsberg, longtime viewer, Mark Lisenby, Area K, Will Bauman, Matt Forster. Welcome, guys. And remember, this is how you win stuff. First, tim@thewatchbox.com. That's my email address. If you've already entered our raffle, that is, you've sent me your name, your phone number, and your mailing address, you're re-entered. Sending 2 emails doesn't make you twice as likely to win. And if you've never sent me your name, your mailing address, and your phone number, then you need to, because I might select you to win some of this stuff that I've got on the table. We mail it out free. You win whether you buy or not buy. All right, guys, joining us tonight, I see Nolan Reed from Atlanta. Eddie, where are you from? Mark Lisenby mentions he's from Kentucky. I see Sam W124. Are you an old Mercedes-Benz collector, W124? All right, as we proceed, let's start with a tour of the Vallee de Joux. I'm going to give you Audemars Piguet, Blancpain, and Jaeger-LeCoultre, because in the real world, that is Switzerland, they're not that far away, which is why I have them daisy-chained and stationed on the table. Now, this is the Blancpain Villeret Complete Calendar. This is a watch that features an innovative underlug pusher adjustment system. It's probably the standout feature of the watch. Now, it has 2 functions. First, it cleans up the profile. There are no dimples in the case blank. There's nothing between the lugs. There's nothing that would conventionally mar the aesthetics of the watch where the public can see it and where the sun shines. Now, here's the other function. These little pusher adjusters, again, you can barely see them beneath the lugs. They prevent you from actuating the calendar during the danger zone. How do they work in practice? Well, you can use your fingernail. Watch the day of the week, Friday. You can use your fingernail to cycle the calendar, so you don't need a pusher adjuster tool. No need defacing your watch with a pen or a toothpick. No need to find that little thing that came in the box years back. It's really that simple. There's a little trigger. You move it with your thumbnail. The movement itself is Blancpain caliber 6654, entirely hand finished. You can see the free sprung balance, a little bit underwound. I should probably have energized this one a bit more before the show. You can also see the gorgeous rose lathe cut gold winding mass, and it is entirely hand finished to a very high standard. Twin mainspring barrels, free sprung, 72-hour power reserve. In case you're wondering, the base caliber is distantly related to the old Frederic Piguet 1150. Okay, now, you guys know I love Jaeger-LeCoultre. It's what I wear personally, and we may as well do a wrist shot since I'm wearing a JLC. We're about to talk about JLC, and I've got a calendar complication on the wrist. This is a little bit of the best of both worlds. You get a JLC Memovox base. This is the caliber 919 in the Grand Memovox from 2001. Platinum watch, alarm, but it's the Perpetual Calendar module, adjusted using a single point of adjustment on the case flank. It's the Kurt Klaus system designed by IWC, so it's mechanically programmed through the year 2100, and with a single pusher adjuster, everything moves in sync. I'm going to show you how that works in practice with a Portugieser Perpetual in a moment. But let's see what's on the table tonight. Well, a golden oldie, literally a rose golden oldie. We have a Jlc Master Perpetual from the 90s on the table tonight. Now, this might be the most attractive variant. This alongside the blue platinum dialed version. With black dial, rose gold case, 37 millimeters, you can see it also has their Kurt Klaus Perpetual system, and the way you adjust it is with the single pusher adjuster on the flank. Everything moves in sync, so you can't create an imaginary combination of days and dates. Even the moon phase is synced. Now on the case back, you can see the movement that makes the magic happen. Now there's a lot of hand finishing in this caliber. It's based on a Jlc 889 bidirectional winding automatic, master 1000 hours fully cased up test of movement and watch. Now what you get here is the Kurt Klaus module on the dial side from IWC and the Jlc automatic on the reverse side. For me, this combination of dial and metal and complication and size makes this an all-timer. It's handsome, it's versatile, it's the one I would buy of the two JLCs I have on the table tonight. That's not to sell short the Master Calendar Meteorite, which I'm about to show you. Let's see who's joining us. I see Todd Piasecki joining us from Detroit. I see Mike Fenimore, M. Fenimore I should say, I don't know that he's Mike, saying it's an IWC type of night. Alexi from Finland is still awake, thanks for sticking with us. Thinlessy Fly today saying nice, welcome, and Vincent Tan joining us from Tokyo. Welcome Vincent and good morning. Okay, so in 2013 JLC redesigned what has to be considered one of its perennials, the complete calendar watch. It's had one in the catalog more or less continuously since the 1930s, and that's not counting the pocket watches that came before. Now this model came out in 2015, combining the 2013 case, dial, and movement with a meteorite dial. Now it's sometimes known as a bit of a misnomer as the Widmanstätten process dial. What you're looking at is the metallic iron grain of the iron meteorite that has been shaved down, oxidized slightly, and then stabilized. So it will always feature that same random pattern, and no two examples of this watch will ever be exactly alike. Now it's 39 millimeters in stainless steel. I believe we're asking just under $9,000 for this watch. It retailed for over $10,000. This is a lot of watch for the money, and you're getting a very versatile case size. If you're familiar with the sector dial Masters from this year's SIHH, it's that case, albeit with a more upscale, full deployment buckle, a complication, and a richer movement. Now here's the thing. In the years since that JLC Master Perpetual was made, there have been upgrades. Unidirectional winding, full 18-karat winding mass, a free-sprung balance, ceramic rotor bearings. You're getting all of the modern standards. Now, you have the ability to hack the seconds. So if I pull the crown out, you do stop the balance, meaning you have terms as broad as roughly 2 3/4 years with the moon phase, or as small as the ability to set to the second via the hacking seconds function. This is a very nicely balanced watch, but I can't deny the warmth of that black dial in that rose gold case. Let me check my email. Remember, if you're just joining us, you win our raffle. If you've already sent me your email in the past, your name, your phone number, and your mailing address, you're already entered for the raffle. If you're just joining the show and you've never sent me a contact before, I'm picking from this swag that I've got here. I'm going to send it to you for free. You just have to enter our raffle by sending your name, your mailing address, and your phone number to tim@thewatchbox.com, and I'm going to pick you from amongst our contestants tonight. Okay. Let me see who's going to win tonight. Let's pick our first winner. All right. Tom Hung of Hacienda Heights. A man from the West Coast. Tom, you're winning something that I think is absolutely sensational. It is a French-manufactured Patek Philippe commemorative tie. This is a versatile one. Blue is the color of watch dials these days. Blue is always in style, and it's going to be in style whenever you dress up for the year 2018, because I'm sending this to you as an early holiday present or stocking stuffer. A beautiful piece. I own one. I wear one. It's about as good as it gets in the world of men's accessories. That is short of a watch. Okay, so Tom, congratulations. You're our first winner of the night. Remember, guys, name, phone number, and mailing address so I can actually send this stuff to you. Folks have sent me just an email. I can't email you this stuff. It has to go snail mail. The real world stinks, right? Actually, the real world is pretty good because in the world of wheels and springs and the physical firmament, we have continuing our tour through the Vallee de Joux. Audemars Piguet, this is a monster, guys, so brace yourself. You didn't know we were shooting a monster flick tonight, but in fact we are. This is the Audemars Piguet Tradition Perpetual Calendar in Platinum, reference 26051PT. This is a watch that came out in 2008, but you could be forgiven for forgetting that the Tradition line exists. But it's powered by an Audemars Piguet caliber 5020. This is an ultra-thin, sub 2 millimeter thick vintage pocket watch caliber, immaculately finished, based on a Frederic Piguet 151 pocket watch à Bausch from the first half of the last century. Now, it has about a 42 to 45 hour power reserve, a huge balance that looks so big you could stick your finger in and get it chopped off, and a level of finishing that does justice to the best of the Vallee de Joux tradition. Côte de Genève, perlage, beautiful anglage, and polished screws. the impressive thing about this watch is that a perpetual calendar module was created properly sized to fit this 47mm watch and its correspondingly huge satin-grained dial. Now the hands are downright Baroque. If we can get a little closer, guys, just to see those hand-finished cathedral hands in rose gold, I would have to say the hands are one of the best features of this dial because they are truly handmade. You see a lot of stamped and cut hands, even among the Holy Trinity's product. This uniquely features hand-finished hands, hand-finished Breguet-style numerals, hand-applied, and you can see that satin grain almost like the stainless steel of a DeLorean. One more shot at that gorgeous case back. Guys, this is what it looks like when a pocket watch is finished to a 21st century luxury standard. Again, this is a lovely watch from 2008 that represents a rarely seen facet of Audemars Piguet. It's not just about octagonal bezels and royal oaks. They also do beautiful, sometimes exuberant, traditional watches. Okay, so we're also taking a few live questions if we can, guys. We got started a little late tonight, so I don't want to leave anyone in the lurch. If you're just joining us, welcome to Watches Live. Tonight's theme is calendar watches, complete, annual, and perpetual. We've even got a crazy Zodiac on the table tonight. More on that in a moment when we get to FP Journe. I can see friends are joining us from all around. Giants fan. I'm assuming New York Giants, not San Francisco, and therefore a local. Bishop joining us, Joshua Polanski. Of course, welcome, guys. I see a happy holidays from Tom Hung. Todd Piasecki's not an AP fan. That's okay. We've got more for you right here. And I think the best way, Todd is saying he needs a 5170 from Patek to match his current collection. All right, I don't dispute that. That would be a worthy addition. We've got some competition for the 5170 on the table tonight. I'm going to warn you in advance. Let's talk about a brand that we love here, a company that only ever builds up to 900 watches a year. I think they did 744 last year. But let's turn back the clock to the early 2000s and the FP Journe Octa collection. Okay, first, I want to show you a watch that you'll rarely see. This is the original ruthenium collection. If you remember these watches, it started in 2001, 40mm cases, ruthenium dials, platinum cases, ruthenium-coated movements. Each one was made in a series of 99. There were 5 in the collection. This was the calendar of the series. This is the Octa Calendrier. It is an annual calendar, and all of the indications of the calendar are adjusted using only the crown. Therefore, it has a completely unmarred case. No pusher adjusters, no dimples. It has a 5-day power reserve, automatic winding. What you're looking at is actually a brass caliber with a free-sprung balance, completely hand-decorated, beautifully executed. You'll note there's a barleycorn clou de Paris on the winding mass, circular Côte de Genève on the bridges, and then a very tight and even perlage on the base plate. It is a brass movement. These are the only brass movements that were finished with a ruthenium coat. All others were finished with rhodium, and then in 2004, FP Journe transitioned over to solid 18-karat gold. We have some of that for you too. Now, before the transition entirely away from the brass movements, and for a brief period from 2003 to 2005, FP Journe built a watch unlike anything else before or since. Now, this watch, and you can see the inspiration for its dial on the ceiling of the FP Journe lobby in Geneva, this is the Octa Zodiac. 40mm in platinum with a ruthenium dial, and it is a brass rhodium-coated movement here with a rose gold rotor. It's not part of the ruthenium-coated movement series. Made in 150 pieces. What this features is a calendar. If I can engage, we'll see if I can find the detent. But I want to show you how this works for a moment. Let me show you. It's a Zodiac calendar. There it is. Okay. And if you can see at 12 o'clock on the dial, as I adjust the date, it slowly rotates through the Zodiac. And the Zodiac has a sort of transcendent significance even beyond the notion of science and enlightenment. It's important to remember that no less a Renaissance scientific luminary than Johann Kepler supplemented his income by actually telling fortunes via zodiac signs. And it has something that I would almost compare to a moon phase in terms of romantic appeal. This is a watch built at great cost for essentially the purpose of superstitious folklore, and I love it for that. That's the essence of the mechanical watch, romance and irrational emotion. This watch binds it up nicely with a 5-day octa power reserve. This was made in a series of 150 pieces from 03 to 05. Very rare from an era when FP Journe made about 400 to 500 watches a year. Okay. Now, I should also mention, guys, we do have one final Journe, and this one came out in 2015. I have a special story associated with the Octa Quantième Perpetual, the perpetual calendar that replaced the annual calendar in 2015. I saw FP Journe in Boca Raton in 2015, and as usual, when I met FP Journe, I forgot all of my French. That said, I had my Master Calendar on my wrist. It was the Master Moon version, the older one, and he had his Quantième Perpetual, and we exchanged watches at his boutique, and I was able to see the prototype of a watch he developed on his own wrist over a period of about 3 to 4 years. This is the finished product. Quantième Perpetual, all indications are corrected using the crown save one. The month is corrected using a very discreet pusher built almost imperceptibly into the lug by 1 o'clock. Rose gold movement, we're into the era of 18 karat here, guys. Now you can see that same triple finish, barley corn on the rotor, Côte de Genève on the bridges, and perlage on the base plate, but now it is a solid gold movement. And I can tell you with platinum case, white gold dial, and rose gold movement, this watch weighs as much as a 44-45 millimeter Hublot. It's an absolute pleasure on the wrist. Beautifully executed now. We're well past the era when early Journes exhibited hand-finished, shall we say, flaws, but beautiful ones. This is immaculate. This is what FP Journe delivers today. Quantième Perpetuel, you can see the leap year cycle right over the cannon pinion, coaxial with the hands at center, and a 120-hour power reserve automatically wound. Okay, let's pick another winner, guys. Go into my email. Remember, send your name, mailing address, and phone number, and I'm going to be raffling off winners tonight. Okay. John McAdoo of Bakersfield, California. You are our second winner of the night. I am also going to send you this gorgeous silk French tie. I don't think it would be fair if I've already given one out not to give the next selectee one of these gorgeous Patek Philippe commemorative blue cross-hatched silk Parisian ties. I've got one. I love it. It's an absolute pleasure to run through the hands as you tie that Windsor knot. You're going to love this piece. John, congratulations. We have more fun stuff, guys, including arguably the best thing I've ever given out from our swag selection, so stay tuned. All right, moving on now, I want to talk about Patek Philippe. Why? Because Patek Philippe in 1996 invented the annual calendar. Prior to that, it was complete calendar or it was perpetual and nothing in between. The idea of a calendar that was close in function to a perpetual, but only required one correction per year, and critically could be accomplished entirely with wheels, not wheels and levers. That was Patek's idea. And in 1996, the first came out. 10 years later, this watch, the 5396, debuted at Baselworld. Now, the watch is a bit of a throwback to some of the older Patek Philippe perpetual calendars, like the first perpetual calendar, the first serially produced perpetual calendar, the 1526 of the 1940s, or the 3448 perpetual, whose production spanned parts of 3 decades from the 60s through the 80s. Now, this watch features a close-coupled date and month along a beautiful top-to-bottom 12-to-6 column that also includes a 24-hour subdial, a crescent-style moon phase, and a nice date aperture that anchors the dial with a sector dial featuring separate finishes. You can see there is a different silver tone to the center versus the calibrations of the hours, minutes, and seconds. Now, it also features that gorgeous white-on-silver print with blued hands, and when you turn it over, this was one of the first examples, I believe, based on the style of the clasp and the Geneva hallmark. This was probably a 2006 or 2007 model year watch. Of course, today they feature the Patek Philippe interlocking double P. Now, make no mistake, the older standard is inferior in no sense. The Patek Philippe seal is just a way of saying we're too good for Geneva hallmark, or basically same thing, different name. This is perfect. Linear Côte de Genève across the bridges. You can see it beautifully. Circular Côte de Genève with a very subtle perlage at the center of the rotor. Perlage on the base plate, Gyromax balance, 4 Hz, 35 to 45 hour power reserve, and it has that emblematic Patek Philippe complication, the annual calendar, in my favorite layout, apertures, so much easier to read at a glance. But that is not my favorite Patek Philippe aperture annual calendar. For that, I give you my favorite Patek Philippe overall at any price in any era. The great 5235G regulator. We first saw it in 2011. Deliveries did not start until 2013. The satin finish dial that reminds me of a DeLorean with the aperture annual calendar and separate registers for seconds at the base at 6, minutes at center, and hours at 12 o'clock. It's also one of the few Patek Philippe watches, along with, for instance, the 5170 and the 5959, that features a hacking function. So when you pull the crown, you actually stop the seconds. Hacking on a Patek Philippe, you'd assume it was standard, but no, it only comes on a few special references. One of the reasons this watch received the hacking function is because it was an exalted refinement of Patek Philippe's Advanced Research Series materials and solutions. Now, of course, the Advanced Research Series started with the 5250 in 2005. Slowly, silicon components moved from the escape wheel to the pallet to the hairspring, and here we have all of those refinements. It's not a 240, it's a 260 REG. It's called the 31260. It has over a 60-hour power reserve compared to the 48 of the 240. Micro rotor, here you can see that new Patek Philippe seal. You can see that beautifully broad set of textured Côte de Genève. They're larger and more richly textured than you saw in the previous movement. It's a different style, it's not a higher quality, they're both excellent. But you're going to love the architecture of this one if you're a movement snob, because everything is big, open, and easy to see thanks to the micro rotor. Patek also designed in beautifully broad channels between the bridges, so you can really appreciate the base plate movement as well as the drivetrain. This has all of the Advanced Research Series innovations, save Gyromax SI on the balance. This one has a standard Gyromax free-sprung balance. And you can see the case lines reminiscent of the vintage 3448. For me, in terms of style and substance, this is as good as it gets. And for good measure, Patek has had trouble making it, so production has been low, and in the future, I would say that probably means it's going to be a collectible watch. If not for being a first, certainly for being something they had trouble mass producing. All right, so I have a comment from JBO Surf joining us from Adelaide, Australia. That movement is badass. JBO, you have always been my man. You and I are of one mind. One mind separated by like 12 time zones. All right, I can see also Edward Ledden joining us from Sweden. And Joshua Polanski noting that, yes, it is the regulator. My favorite. Is it yours? Guys, sound off in the chat box. Let me know, what is your favorite calendar watch as I work my way through here. Now, of course, we've been talking about Geneva watchmakers, F.P. Journe, Patek Philippe. They're all local to the grand city and canton of Genève. But here's the thing. Perhaps the most outlandish was also one of the first independents. A Geneva native, Roger Dubuis, right up until his death, was an institution in Geneva watchmaking. I have two watches from the beginning and late eras of Roger Dubuis, the independent brand. There's the man and there's the brand, and the brand actually started not as Roger Dubuis, but as an acronym called SOGEM. It was the name of the company when first launched in 1995, and one of the first watches launched was this one. First two model lines, the Homage and the Sympathy. Homage was a round watch, Sympathy was an exuberant, beautifully shaped, multifaceted, almost liquid metal form on the wrist. Now, the case form was invented by a Vallee de Joux case maker consulted by Roger Dubuis. It featured a case with that gorgeous, fluid, almost molten metal form, a bezel to match, a sapphire that was hand-finished to fit, and a dial to match in a rich gloss lacquer. Now, there is a double complication, or a triple, I should say, moon phase and bi-retrograde day date. Now, from 1995 to about 2000, they were made with a shaped crystal. After that, because of the amount of hand finishing necessary to get the crystal to fit the bezel, they discontinued the shaped crystal and they went with a circular crystal. These early watches are more collectible, less common, and more charming. Now, the nice thing about them is they're equally charismatic on the back. The watch is both Geneva hallmark, meaning it has the Poinçon de Genève on the movement, and it is a Roger Dubuis caliber 57 based on a Longines L990, also known as the Breguet 8815, an ultra slim, automatic, twin mainspring barrel, haute de gamme movement, finished to Geneva seal standards, by the Roger Dubuis manufacturer. Now here's the thing, they basically make it their own with their own module and their own finish, but they also subscribe to an old and grand tradition. Oftentimes in olden days, rather than seek a Swiss chronometry certificate from one of the observatories or Bureau Officiel in Switzerland, watchmakers in Switzerland would send their watches to the Besançon Observatory in France to have a chronometer certificate created. And you've probably only heard of Besançon from that odd time you watched a stage of the Tour de France during the Lance era. But here's the thing, it's a grand tradition to which this watch can claim a part. It is a Besançon chronometer, and if you can see the small text at 12 o'clock, Bulletin d'Observatoire, it has that chronometer certificate as well as the Geneva Hallmark certificate, a beautiful watch and a romantic era when the man who had for years been a complication specialist for Patek Philippe became a brand under his own name. Now, of course, the closest thing to those original Roger Dubuis in the current catalog are probably the Monegasque watches. The line came out in 2011, about 4 years after Richemont bought the company from Dubuis' old business partner, Carlos Diaz. Now, the Monegasques are big. There's no two ways about it. Dubuis watches got big in the 2000s, first with the sports activity watches, but then later under Richemont, elements of that large, outlandish style were fused with some of the styling cues of the early Dubuis years, and you got the Monegasque collection. You can see this really is the aesthetic direct heir to the original Sympathy. Now you can also see this one is a perpetual calendar. Black ADLC frame to the bezel. You can see it features that same Sympathy-inspired case, not quite as pointed, not quite as distinctive as the original, but with elements of finish to the dial and a true manufacture movement to add richness. Now this is the RD821, 48-hour power reserve, automatic winding, Poinçon de Genève. You can see a black polished swan's neck regulator on the balance wheel, circular Côte de Genève across the bridges, a tight and even perlage on the base plate. This is their own movement in their own case, and they make everything down to the hairspring today. A true manufacturer. For me, the romance of this watch is in the movement and in the dial. And yes, the dial too is created in-house. You'll note applied Arabic numerals on the outboard minutes track. Inboard, you'll see one Arabic numeral applied at 12, contrasting concentric layers of color, texture, and material, rose gold, silver sunburst, circular graining on the hour track, beautiful plinths for each of the Arabic numerals save the 12th, and outboard a old-fashioned railroad track minutes register. This is absolutely gorgeous, and it's one of the few watches you'll want to loop on both the dial side and the movement side. All right. SK mentioning he loves that dial. I do too. One of the things Dubuis does great today is dial composition. Beautiful details, still adventurous in design. Make no mistake, today they're well into skeletonization, so to see a solid dial contemporary Dubuis, the Monegasques came out in 2011, they're not quite what they're doing today. They're a little bit of a throwback to the true Dubuis era, and for me that's a great blend of past and present. Okay. So this is a question from Joshua Plansky. Remember, guys, this is an interactive show, and it goes both ways. You ask, I answer. He's asking, are micro rotors very different than your regular rotor? Is it only to see the movement, or is it harder to make? First, yes, it does allow you to see the whole movement because, let's compare our Patek Philippe 324 to our caliber 31 260 REG. When you've got a central rotor, it blocks half the movement. When you've got a micro rotor, it's in the same plane as the bridges, so effectively you have the same visibility you'd get with a manual wind watch. Now, it's also a lot harder to make a micro rotor. That's why you almost always see automatic Patek Philippe Grand Complications featuring the micro rotor rather than the center, and when you see the 240 in a time-only capacity, it tends to be on very upscale models within the Calatrava family. It's harder to make a micro rotor. Let me show you why. Anytime you make a watch thin, you make it more delicate. Anytime it becomes more delicate, especially when it has to meet a strict in-house chronometry standard like +2, -2 that Patek Philippe adheres to, it's hard to make a thin movement accurate, and it's hard to make it reliable, and it's hard to make it durable. The thinner you make something, the less material, the thinner the wheels, the thinner the teeth of the wheels, the less opportunity there is to keep them meshed if a shock hits the movement, the less room there is for end shake to provide a buffer if a pivot wants to move under shock. This is basically what you do if you have your total act together, a micro rotor with a 22 to 24 karat gold or platinum mass to make sure it has the maximum possible moment of inertia. And that's the last challenge, building an automatic system around a micro rotor. Many of the early ones, like the original Piaget 12Ps, they were not very efficient winders. Not everyone does a good micro rotor. Patek Philippe does. You want to buy from a well-established name brand, and you want to buy a movement that's been in production for a few years or is based on a well-established movement family if you go micro rotor, because from durability to reliability to winding efficiency, there's a lot that can go wrong. All right, the other thing is everything else gets shouldered aside. You have to make the winding system as well as the drivetrain and the power source that much more compact if it has to fit in the same plane as your rotor. You don't have the luxury of just stacking it on top of the movement. Okay. So, comment from Marco, the only problem with the Patek 240 movement is that it's loud. That's more of a modern phenomenon. This is the 40th anniversary of the 240 micro rotor caliber, and for most of its history, it did not have ceramic rotor bearings. Since it has converted to ceramic rotor bearings over the last decade, it has become noisier because ceramic bearings are harder. You're getting basically a rock running on a metal track, and they operate unlubricated, so there's no oil buffer to slow them down or cushion the sound of their resonance in the movement. All right. Guys, keep the questions coming. You have questions, I have answers. But I also have watches. I want to talk about two of the most innovative perpetual calendars you will find. One from Ulysse Nardin and one from IWC. Let's start with IWC because they were first with the innovative perpetual. In 1985, we first saw the Kurt Klaus perpetual calendar system. Everything, like on my JLC, it uses the Klaus system, is geared together and mechanically programmed. So when you operate, for instance, the date, now guys, watch this, I'm going to adjust the whole calendar in sync. Everything moves mechanically programmed, so it's as easy to adjust a perpetual calendar moon phase as it is to adjust a three-hand date Rolex Datejust or Submariner, because all you do is turn the crown and it moves mechanically programmed for perfect synchronicity with the moon phase, the day, the date, the year, the decade, even the century. That's the most user-friendly perpetual calendar system of the 80s. Still one of the best today. Everything's adjusted through the crown, so there are no pushers to mar the case flanks. This is a beautiful Portugieser perpetual calendar, 44.2 millimeters in white gold with extravagant blue dial and hand-applied diamond-polished Arabic numerals in white gold. Turn it over, and it is a 50,000 series base. I want to say this is like the 52-615 caliber here. 7-day power reserve, free sprung. This one, as you can see, Peloton winding system. It's that large gold wheel just above the rotor with pawls. Mechanically efficient, shock protected, and bidirectional. It is one of the most original and enduring winding systems in the industry, developed around 1950 by Albert Peloton, then a esteemed watchmaker and prototypist with IWC. It's used to this day, and it's been ripped off right and left by other companies. There's only one original. Now, back to that dial. If you can adjust everything in sync, that's pretty user-friendly. If you can do it all from one point of adjustment, the crown, that's even better. But what happens if you adjust too far when you've got a year on the dial? You can't simply cycle around until you reach the right date, because this is a linear, not a circular calendar. You'll go into 2018, then 2019, and the further ahead you set it, the deeper you dig your hole. So the watch either has to go back to the watchmaker or you have to wait a long time. The solution, a bidirectional perpetual calendar. And in 1996, Ludwig Ochslin, who started as a clock restorer for the Vatican, mastered celestial complications in calendars, and then moved in with Ulysse Nardin to become their head scientist. That's probably the best term for him. He created the perpetual Ludwig system, which has a year and a decade like the IWC system, but everything is adjustable through the crown or the GMT plus minus pushers, and it's a bidirectional system. So you can see how I'm adjusting from November to December in both directions. So if I go too far, I just turn it back. And in the year 2100, when everyone else's perpetual calendar has to go back to the factory to be fixed, it's a quirk of the Gregorian calendar, this thing can be corrected by its owner. Now this is a model that came out in 2010 at Basel World. It is the Ulysse Nardin Executive El Toro GMT Plus Minus Perpetual. Now here's how it works. It's Ulysse Nardin caliber 32, 43 millimeters, 100 meters water resistant, ceramic bezel. This is one that you can take swimming if you put it on the rubber strap. It has a GMT Plus Minus system for traveling. It has a 24-hour hand that's actually kind of semi-hidden under the minutes hand at the moment, so you can always look at your reference time zone and get AM-PM distinction. As you jump time zones, you can turn forward and backwards through the international date line. It will drive the calendar in both directions. Gorgeous Côte de Genève and the iconic Toro bridge on the dial. Caliber 32, nicely finished. A different kind of finish, ADLC blackened with blued screws. This is a handsome watch with a manufacture movement, a still unique complication, and in platinum for roughly half its original price. The watch is priced in the low 30s right now. You're getting a 500-piece limited series that brings it all. Ceramic bezel, platinum case, limited series, swimmable, bidirectional perpetual calendar, GMT plus minus travel function, and a manufacturer movement. For me, this is about as innovative and useful as a calendar watch gets. But some people will not be satisfied. They want more. And thanks to Patek Philippe, during the 1940s, giving us the reference 1518, we will forever associate the complex chronograph with a calendar function. So what do you do? Well, we have a staggered choice for you from $2,500 to $100,000. Let's start that journey now. By the way, I have a question from Eddie Landsberg. Tim, what is the best entry-level perpetual or annual calendar? I'm going to say the best entry-level annual calendar, a watch you can buy for well under $10,000, would be the Zenith Windsor annual calendar. Get it with the blue dial and the steel case in 42 millimeters. It's designed by Ludwig Ochslin. Only 9 additional pieces on top of the El Primero caliber. You get an annual calendar with the ability to basically retain the power reserve of the underlying watch, keep the timepiece thin, add the pedigree of a Ludwig Ochslin complication to an El Primero chronograph caliber, all in steel with a gorgeous blue dial. There are other dial variants available, and you get all this for under $10,000. That's about as good as it gets for me. Complication, pedigree, history, and wearability. That would be my recommendation to you. But if you want something super quirky, get the original IWC reference 3750 Da Vinci. It's the watch they paid tribute to this year at SIHH. That watch is quirktastic, from the plexiglass crystal to the hinge lugs to the combination of a chronograph and a perpetual calendar with the Kurt Claus module. I would have to say that would be your best entry-level perpetual calendar module. Chronograph combination, entry-level pricing under $10,000. Get all of that with the Kurt Claus coordinated module for under 10 grand. Get it in steel with the black dial, because that's the most attractive version for me, and get it on a strap. Okay, so now let's start with the most accessible complete calendar chronograph we've got here. Longines does vintage style well, and they do value well. This is a Longines Master Complete Calendar Chronograph, day, date, month, moon phase chronograph, automatic winding, 42 millimeters, stainless steel. This isn't a sports watch so much as it is a sporty dress watch. Handsome and versatile, it features deluxe appointments such as an alligator leather strap rather than calfskin, and a full deployment clasp rather than a pin buckle. I love this watch at $3,500. At $2,500, which is what we're asking for it, I give it hugs and kisses. A beautiful watch built on a bomb-proof Valjoux 7751. That's the complete calendar moon phase version of the 7750. You're getting a watch with a real ETA caliber, increasingly scarce these days, a great name, and a guarantee that the company that makes it will be around forever to service it. A true luxury product. That's a great option for under $3 grand. But we can go a little bit upscale. Oh heck, let's go a lot upscale. Back to the world of complicated calendar El Primero watches. This is a gorgeous Chronomaster caliber 410, 40mm triple gadron case fluted lugs from the late 1990s. This is when they were both El Primero Complete Calendar and, as you can see, the individual serial numbering on the rotor, COSC certified Swiss chronometers. It's a chronograph, it's a chronometer, it's a complete calendar, it's a moon phase. You can get this watch for $10,500 roughly. Or you can wait in line and pay $2,000 more to get the steel ceramic Daytona. There are a lot less of these out there. Even with Daytona's production still in progress, there are already more of those than there will ever be of these. You ask me which one I would take, I don't even have to think. I go for the El Primero. I go for the complete calendar. I go for that gorgeous multi-finish dial with applied indices and Roman numerals, faceted Dauphine hands, triple calendar, triple gadrons, elegance, classical size, beautiful execution from a great name in watchmaking, and a truly grand El Primero caliber 410 on the reverse side. I think that would be the most complete calendar chronograph you can buy for just over 10 grand. But if you have more money to spend, I have options. Now, hold your fire. This is a company that deserves your respect. Known as a fashionistas brand, something of the bête noire among horology snobs, this is Hublot with the Big Bang Unico Perpetual Calendar Full Sapphire. It's a Unico caliber 1270 3-day automatic with a skeletonized dial, a full sapphire case with titanium inner movement holder. It's got the unique seatbelt buckle quick release lugs, and let me show you how that works. You can swap up and change the look of the watch, just as the original owner of this one swapped from a clear to a blue gummy strap. Full clasp, sapphire case, nearly indelible. Unless you routinely encounter diamond tools, you're never going to scratch or scuff this one. Manufacture chronograph perpetual calendar movement, and one of only 50 pieces made. This is a watch in the $60,000 range that gives you something you will never see on anyone else's wrist. Since 2016, Hublot has been doing the full sapphire case thing. The results have been very good. They make a durable and handsome sapphire case, transparent, light as a feather on the wrist, and beautiful. I have to say, this watch wears compact despite being big. I can wear this watch. I dig this watch. Again, I'm not quite done with my JLC collection. I'm waiting for a minute repeater, but this is the kind of watch that you should consider even if you're a movement snob, even if you've never considered Hublot in the past. That said, if you're a movement snob, I've got a watch for you. And this is kind of going to be my grand finale, so let me pick a winner from our chat box because we're going to give away something really cool right now. Okay. Guys, you've been sending your name, phone number, and mailing address to tim@thewatchbox.com. If you've already entered, you're already in. If you've sent me your name in a previous show, you're already in. But let me see right here. Okay. Cameron Pallone from Enid, Oklahoma. For some reason, I want to say that that's where the Air Force trains. I want to say we sent some Navy guys there. Is that where Vance Air Force Base is? Correct me if I'm wrong. But Cameron Pallone, you are winning, and you are winning something nice. This is an Officine Panerai 2017 blue leather, Italian leather wallet. You can see, made in Italy. Space for your credit card, space for your money, and you'll have plenty of money because I'm sending this to you free, gratis, shipping included. My gift to you, whether you're a Panerai fan or not, this is going to style when you withdraw your credit card at the pizza parlor because everyone loves Panerai, right? Or at least everyone loves pizza. You're going to love one legacy of Italy no matter who you are. I think I've got my bases covered there. Pizza and Panerai, have them together with your wallet from Panerai and from thewatchbox.com. Congratulations, Cameron. Now, like I said, the grand finale. The brand that is second in my heart only to Jaeger-LeCoultre, and then it's a dead heat, a Lange Sohne. In 2006, they gave us the first Datograph Perpetual, and in 2015, they doubled down with a bigger case, a bigger dial. This is the works, guys. Flyback chronograph, perpetual calendar, grand date, caliber L952. Look at all of that black polished metal. Everything that is going crazy in the light is black polished. The highest level of finish, if this were a Swiss watch, we would call it poly noir. This is a 550 plus piece movement, handmade, hand decorated, free sprung balance, beating away at a pocket watch style 18,000 vibration per hour. That's one of the changes from the original Datograph. to this modern generation of datograph perpetual. I will pull the crown, hack the balance, let you get a sense of the technological innovations that were made over the years. Now, of course, with a 41 millimeter case, this one is bigger, but it's not oversized. A compact 14 millimeters thick in full platinum. This is a watch that originally retailed for over $164,000, about $99,500 from us. Look at the jewels set in screw-fixed chaton. Screw-fixed chaton, just like a vintage pocket watch. German silver bridges and plates. That beautiful golden hue, an alloy of nickel, copper, and zinc. Blued screws for assembly, polished screws are used for adjustment, straight graining on the levers of the chronograph system, and I may as well indulge you with the function of the chronograph. Note the column wheel. Let me show you this, guys, how this works. The column wheel is just below my finger. Move back in, guys, if you can get real close. You can see the interaction of the black polished column wheel with the levers and horns of the chronograph. You'll also note just above that a fully jeweled chronograph drivetrain. You'll never see fully jeweled chronograph drivetrains on conventional chronographs. That's a level of refinement that even many Geneva seal movements do not feature. Here, you're getting that. You'll even note that there is a chaton set in the chronograph drivetrain itself, which is moving in and out at the center of the movement. This is a movement that bears all of its secrets. Fall in love with your watch, turn it on its backside and oogle. This is as good as movement finish gets, within or without the bounds of Switzerland. Lange, you are still near and dear to my heart. You never disappoint. Perpetual calendar, datograph, platinum, handsome, appeals to the right brain, the left brain, whether you wear it on your right wrist or your left wrist. This is a watch that can bring right and left together. I don't care who you are or where you are. Thanks for joining me tonight, guys. Remember, you can follow me at Tim_Mosso and see many of my closest friends on a nightly basis. I love showing big pictures of watches we've got, and I love doing video. It's been my hallmark on YouTube, now on Instagram. Tim_Mosso, that's my Instagram, updated daily. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Todd Piasecki saying as sexy as it gets. Todd, I'm giving you the last word. I'm Tim, they're the amigos, this is Watchbox, and thanks for logging on.